What if I told you that every birthday you have ever celebrated was actually a subtle reminder that you are not truly living? What if the candles on your cake, the gifts wrapped in colorful paper, and the singing of that familiar song were all symptoms of a mind trapped in time, unable to experience the only moment that actually exists? What if birthdays, rather than being celebrations of life, were actually monuments to our inability to be alive right now? Have you ever noticed how strange it is that we mark time in this way? We wake up one morning and declare that today we are older than we were yesterday, as if crossing some invisible line in the calendar changes who we fundamentally are. We count our years like prisoners marking days on a cell wall, keeping track of something we can never get back, never realizing that this very act of counting is what keeps us imprisoned in the first place. Picture this. You are at your own birthday party, surrounded by people who love you. There is cake, there are presents, and everyone is smiling. But somewhere beneath the surface, there is a strange unease. You feel the weight of another year passing, the subtle pressure of expectation about what you should have accomplished by now, the quiet anxiety about how many more of these celebrations you will get to have. The party is happening around you, but you are not really there. You are lost somewhere in memory, reviewing the past year, or you are projecting forward, wondering what the next year will bring. The present moment, the only moment where the party actually exists, slips by unnoticed. Or consider the child counting down the days until their birthday. They cannot sleep at night because the excitement is too great. They are living for that future moment when they will finally be older, when they will finally get to open their presents, when they will finally feel special. But in their anticipation, they miss the beauty of every ordinary day leading up to that moment. They trade their actual life for an imaginary future that, when it arrives, will immediately become just another present moment to be traded for yet another future. Or think about the person who dreads their birthday, who feels the years piling up like stones on their chest. They look in the mirror and see not the face that exists today, but a comparison to photographs from years past. They feel not the aliveness of their current body, but the absence of a youth that was never fully appreciated when it was here. Their birthday becomes not a celebration, but a funeral for who they used to be, conducted while they are still breathing, still alive, still missing the point entirely. Have you ever felt this strange relationship with time, this sense that you are always somewhere other than where you actually are? Have you ever noticed how much of your life is spent reviewing what has already happened or rehearsing what might happen next, while the present moment, the only time you actually have, passes by like scenery outside a train window? Have you ever wondered if there might be another way to live, a way to actually be present for your own existence, rather than constantly narrating it from some mental distance? The great philosopher Alan Watts spent his entire life addressing exactly this problem. He saw with remarkable clarity how human beings had become trapped in a peculiar kind of madness, a madness so normal and so universal that almost nobody noticed it. We had confused the menu for the meal, the map for the territory, the description of life for life itself. And nowhere was this confusion more apparent than in our relationship with time, with age, with the counting of our days. Watts understood something that most of us miss entirely. He understood that time, as we normally experience it, is not a river that flows from past to future. It is not a container that holds events. It is not even something that passes at all. Time, in the way we usually think about it, is a construction of thought, a useful fiction that allows us to plan and coordinate and remember, but a fiction nonetheless. The only time that actually exists, the only moment that is ever real, is now. And now is not a point on a timeline. Now is the eternal ground from which all experience arises. This insight did not originate with Watts. It flows through nearly every spiritual tradition humanity has ever produced. The Zen masters spoke of it when they pointed to the eternal present. The Hindu sages described it in their teaching about the timeless nature of consciousness. The Christian mystics touched it when they wrote about the eternal now. Even modern physics, with its revelations about the relativity of time, points toward this truth that our ordinary sense of time as a fixed universal flow is an illusion. But Watts had a particular gift for translating these insights into language that Western minds could understand. He could take the most profound mystical truths and make them accessible, not by dumbing them down, but by cutting through the unnecessary complexity that often surrounds them. He saw that the obstacle to living in the present was not that we lacked some special technique or spiritual attainment. The obstacle was simply that we had been hypnotized by our own thoughts, caught up in a mental movie that obscured the obvious truth of our immediate experience. Consider for a moment what actually happens when you celebrate a birthday. On the level of physical reality, absolutely nothing changes. The sun rises and sets as it always does. Your body continues its continuous process of change and renewal, the same process that has been happening since you were born. The Earth continues its orbit around the sun, indifferent to the arbitrary points we have chosen to mark on its journey. The only thing that changes is a story, a narrative that we tell ourselves about what this particular arrangement of celestial bodies means for us personally. And yet this story has tremendous power over us. It can make us feel old or young, accomplished or failed, hopeful or despairing. It can send us into spirals of regret about the past or anxiety about the future. It can make us feel like time is running out, like we need to hurry up and achieve something before it is too late, like we are in a race against a clock that will eventually run down to zero. But what if we questioned this story? What if we looked directly at our immediate experience and asked whether this narrative about time actually corresponds to anything real? What if we discovered that the past, as we normally think of it, exists only as a present memory? What if we noticed that the future, as we normally conceive it, exists only as a present imagination? What if we recognized that we have never actually experienced anything other than the present moment, and that the present moment is all we will ever experience? This is not just a philosophical game. This is a direct pointing towards something that can be verified in your own immediate experience. Right now, as you listen to these words, where is the past? Can you find it anywhere other than in thought, in memory, in a present mental activity that refers to something that is no longer here? Right now, where is the future? Can you locate it anywhere other than in imagination, in anticipation, in a present mental activity that refers to something that has not yet happened? The past and future are real in a certain sense, real as mental phenomena, real as useful concepts for organizing our experience. But they are not real in the way we usually assume. They do not exist as actual territories we can visit. They exist only as present thoughts about territories that have dissolved or have not yet formed. I want to pause here for a moment because I know that what we are discussing is not just theoretical for you. Right now, you might be recognizing patterns you have lived with for years, patterns that no one else has truly seen or understood. The way you relate to time, to aging, to the passage of years is deeply personal. It touches on your fears about death, your anxieties about achievement, your sense of whether your life is meaningful or wasted. When was the moment you first realized that this constant focus on past and future was affecting how you move through the world? That moment when it suddenly became clear that you were spending so much of your life somewhere other than where you actually were. Maybe it was a birthday that felt particularly heavy. Maybe it was watching someone you love grow older. Maybe it was a moment of panic about all the things you had not yet done. Whatever it was, that recognition matters. If you are comfortable, share in the comments below. Say something like, I first noticed I was not present when, and then describe what happened for you. Your experience, shared anonymously or not, creates a light for someone else who is walking that same path right now, feeling completely alone in their struggle with time. And if you are not ready to share, that is completely okay too. Just know that as you continue watching, I am speaking directly to your experience, not just to a general audience. The struggles you have kept private are precisely what we are addressing here. Watts had a beautiful way of illustrating this teaching about the present moment. He would often point out that when you look for the present, you cannot find it. If you try to grab hold of now, it has already become then. If you try to anticipate it, it has not yet arrived. The present moment has no duration. It is not a slice of time that you can measure. It is more like the point of a needle, infinitely thin, always vanishing the moment you try to grasp it. And yet, paradoxically, this infinitely thin present is the only place where anything actually happens. The past, whatever it contains, is not happening now. The future, whatever it holds, is not happening now. The only events, the only experiences, the only reality is what is occurring in this slippery, ungraspable moment that we call now. This points to something profound about the nature of consciousness itself. We are not entities moving through time. We are not travelers on a journey from birth to death. We are more like the eye of a hurricane, a still point around which events swirl. Or perhaps more accurately, we are the space in which all events arise and pass away, the awareness that witnesses the constant flow of experience without itself being carried along by that flow. When Watts talked about birthdays meaning nothing to those living in the present, he was not suggesting that we should ignore birthdays or pretend they do not happen. He was not advocating for some kind of spiritual bypassing where we deny the reality of aging and death. He was pointing to something much more subtle and much more liberating. He was saying that when you actually live in the present, when you break free from the hypnosis of past and future, the meaning of birthdays changes completely. They no longer mark the passage of time in a way that produces anxiety or regret. They become simply what they are in the immediate moment, occasions for gathering with loved ones, for enjoying cake and celebration, for appreciating the mysterious fact that you exist at all. The problem is not birthdays themselves. The problem is what we add to birthdays in thought, the comparisons to past years, the projections about future years, the sense that we are racing against time, the evaluation of whether we have accomplished enough. All of this mental activity obscures the simple, immediate reality of the present moment and replaces it with a conceptual overlay that produces suffering. Think about how different your experience of your next birthday could be if you were truly present for it. Instead of half attending the party while your mind wandered through memories and anticipations, you could actually taste the cake. You could actually hear the voices of the people around you. You could actually feel the warmth of connection without filtering it through stories about what it should mean or what it says about your life. This is what presence offers, not an escape from reality, but a return to it. Not a denial of time, but a recognition that time as we usually think of it is a mental construction that we need not be enslaved by. Not the abolition of memory and planning, but the freedom to use these capacities without being used by them. Modern psychology has begun to catch up with what Watts and the mystics have been saying for centuries. Research on mindfulness has shown that people who spend more time in present moment awareness report higher levels of well-being, lower levels of anxiety and depression, and greater satisfaction with their lives. Studies of flow states have revealed that peak human performance occurs precisely when we lose our sense of time, when we become so absorbed in what we are doing that past and future fall away completely. Even neuroscience is beginning to map the brain states associated with presence and temporal freedom. It turns out that there are distinct neural signatures associated with being present versus being lost in thought about past or future. The default mode network, that constellation of brain regions that activates when we are daydreaming or ruminating, produces a very different pattern of activity than the networks associated with present moment attention. But you do not need science to verify what Watts was pointing to. You can verify it directly in your own experience. Right now, in this moment, notice what happens when you bring your attention fully to what is actually occurring. Notice the sounds in your environment. Notice the sensations in your body. Notice the quality of the light. When you do this, where is the past? Where is the future? Where is the anxious sense of time running out? These things require thought to maintain, and when you drop out of thought into direct experience, they simply dissolve. This does not mean that thinking is bad or that we should try to live in some kind of thought-free state. Thinking is a wonderful tool that allows us to learn from experience and plan for contingencies. The problem is not thought itself, but our identification with thought, our tendency to mistake the map for the territory, to live in our mental commentary about life rather than in life itself. Watts had a memorable way of describing this. He said, "We are like people who eat the menu instead of the meal. We read the description of a delicious dish and then chew on the piece of paper rather than ordering the actual food. We confuse our concepts about reality with reality itself, and nowhere is this confusion more costly than in our relationship with time. When you think about your age, what are you actually doing? You are referencing a number, a concept, a piece of information stored in memory. This number may have practical uses. It might tell you when you are eligible for certain benefits. It might influence how doctors approach your health care. It might affect how others perceive you in certain contexts, but the number itself is not you. It does not capture your actual living experience. It is a symbol, a representation, a placeholder for something infinitely more complex and alive. The person you were at 20 is not available for comparison. That person exists only as a present memory, a reconstruction that your mind creates now based on stored information. The person you will be at 80 is not available for anticipation. That person exists only as a present imagination, a projection that your mind creates now based on assumptions about the future. The only you that actually exists is the you that is here now, reading these words, breathing this breath, having this experience. This might sound abstract, but it has very practical implications. Consider how much suffering comes from comparing your present self to your past self. You remember being more energetic, more hopeful, more free. You compare this memory to your current experience and feel diminished by the comparison. But this comparison is occurring entirely in the present. You are creating a mental image of the past and then comparing it to your current experience. And this act of comparison produces dissatisfaction. Or consider how much anxiety comes from projecting yourself into the future. You imagine yourself older, more limited, closer to death. You compare this projection to your current experience and feel threatened by the comparison. But again, this comparison is occurring entirely in the present. You are creating a mental image of the future and then reacting to it as if it were real, even though it exists only in your imagination. What would happen if you stopped making these comparisons, not through force of will, not through suppressing the thoughts, but simply through recognizing that they are occurring now, that they have no independent reality, that you can let them pass like clouds across the sky of awareness without grabbing hold of them and making them into your identity? This is the freedom that Watts was pointing to. Not a freedom from time, but a freedom within time. Not a denial of aging and death, but a release from the psychological suffering that comes from resisting these inevitable aspects of human experience. Not an escape from life, but a full entry into the life that is actually occurring, right now, in this moment that is always fresh, always new, always completely unprecedented. The great irony is that those who live most fully in the present often accomplish more than those who are constantly worried about the future. When you are truly present, you bring your full attention and energy to whatever you are doing. You are not distracted by anxieties about tomorrow or regrets about yesterday. You are fully here, fully engaged, fully alive. Think of the great artists, scientists, and creators throughout history. When they were doing their best work, they were not calculating how many years they had left or comparing themselves to where they thought they should be. They were absorbed in the activity itself, lost in the creative process, present in a way that transcended ordinary concerns about time and achievement. This is available to you too, not through some special technique or years of meditation practice, though these can certainly help. It is available right now in the simple recognition that the present moment is all you have ever had and all you will ever have. The past is a present memory. The future is a present imagination. The present is not a slice of time between past and future. The present is the timeless ground from which all experience emerges. So what does this mean for how you live your life? It does not mean abandoning all sense of time or ignoring practical considerations about the future. It means holding these things more lightly. It means recognizing that your worth is not measured by how many years you have lived or how many you have left. It means understanding that each moment is complete in itself, not a stepping stone to some future moment when you will finally be happy or successful or at peace. Here is a simple practice you can try. The next time you find yourself anxious about aging or worried about time passing, pause and bring your attention to the present moment. Notice what is actually here, not your thoughts about what is here, but the raw, immediate experience of being alive right now. Notice the sounds, the sensations, the colors, the textures. Notice that in this moment, stripped of mental commentary, there is no problem. There is just this, whatever this happens to be. You might find that this practice dissolves much of the suffering that seemed so solid and real just moments before. The anxiety about aging was real as a present experience, but it was composed entirely of thought. When you step out of the thought, the anxiety loses its substance. What remains is simply the present moment, which is always neutral, always fresh, always free of the burdens we add to it through our thinking. This does not mean you will never again feel anxious about time or aging. These patterns are deeply conditioned, and they will continue to arise. But you can develop a different relationship with them. You can learn to see them as weather passing through rather than as facts about reality. You can learn to return again and again to the simple truth of present moment awareness. The challenge I want to leave you with is this. Before your next birthday, spend some time reflecting on your relationship with time. Notice how much of your experience of aging comes from thought rather than from direct experience. Notice how comparing yourself to the past or projecting yourself into the future produces suffering that is not inherent in the present moment itself. And on your birthday, try an experiment. See if you can be fully present for the experience without adding the usual mental commentary. See if you can taste the cake without thinking about how many cakes you have eaten in the past or how many you might eat in the future. See if you can feel the love of the people around you without translating it into stories about what it means or what it should mean. You might discover something remarkable. You might discover that when you are truly present, birthdays do not mark the passage of time. They become simply occasions for presence, for connection, for appreciation of the mysterious fact that anything exists at all. They become celebrations not of how many years you have accumulated, but of the timeless aliveness that you are right now in this eternal moment that never ends and never began. If you have ever felt trapped by your relationship with time, if you have ever felt the weight of years pressing down on you, if you have ever wished you could escape the constant mental commentary about where you should be by now, you are not alone on this journey. This channel is a space where we explore real solutions to these struggles, drawing on the wisdom of thinkers like Alan Watts, who saw so clearly into the nature of human experience. By subscribing, you are not just following content, you are joining a community of people committed to genuine psychological and spiritual growth. Each week, we break down another practical insight you can use immediately to transform your relationship with time, with yourself, and with life itself. These are not quick fixes or empty promises. They are time-tested approaches that have helped countless people find freedom within their own experience. I know how isolating it can feel when you are struggling with these issues, and that is why I am committed to creating content that meets you exactly where you are. Subscribe so we can continue this journey together, one step at a time, at your own pace. If something in today's video resonated with you, that is not coincidence. It is recognition. Your mind is ready for a different approach, a different relationship with time, a different way of being present for your own life. Hit subscribe, hit that like button, and let us discover what is possible for you when you begin to live in the only moment that has ever existed, the eternal now that Alan Watts spent his life pointing toward. Share in the comments one insight from today that struck you personally. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. And remember, the present moment is not something you find in the future. It is here, waiting for you. Always has been. Always will be. The question is simply whether you are ready to stop counting the years and start actually living them.